Welcome to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive. Our mission today, well, it's a pretty high-stakes one. We're diving into a stack of sources on South African rugby, trying to make sense of a potentially title-winning strategy that honestly sounds a bit counterintuitive.
Yeah, we're talking Rassie Erasmus, the Springboks, and this really a quite surprising statement he made just before the final round of the Rugby Championship.
It's almost, hard to wrap your head around.
It really is. Think about it. The Bucks are just one bonus point win away from defending their title. They're right there.
After that incredible demolition of the All Blacks earlier on, too.
Exactly, that 43-10 game. And yet, the coach himself, Rassie, comes out and basically says the team he's picked for this crucial game, it's not his strongest available side.
It just seems like the ultimate paradox, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How can you possibly field a team that, at least you're saying, isn't your absolute best when the championship is literally on the line?
Well, that's what we need to dust into. What were the real constraints forcing his hand? Is there some kind of tactical genius hiding behind this selection? What does it all mean for the final match against Argentina?
Right. And if you want this kind of quick, deep analysis whenever big rugby news drops, make sure you hit subscribe for Rugby Obsession. Seriously, do it now so you don't miss out. Okay, so let's kick off with that quote, the one that really sets the stage here because it was just so blunt. After naming the squad for the Pumas game, he was asked straight up, "Is this your best team?" And his answer,
No, definitely not. This is definitely not our strongest team. Just like that.
wow. I mean, the transparency is one thing, but you have to wonder about the psychology, right?
Oh, absolutely. What does that message send to the players who are in that 23, tasked with winning the title, saying they're, maybe not the A team?
Is it expectation management? Like giving himself an out if they don't get the bonus point?
Yeah.
Or is he genuinely taking a huge risk here?
Well, the sources we've looked at really point towards pragmatism. It seems driven almost entirely by the travel and the schedule, not some risky gamble.
Which is interesting because Erasmus is generally stuck with consistency since that big win in Wellington, hasn't he?
He really has. Remember, they lost that first one to the All Blacks at Eden Park. He tweaked things a bit, found a winning formula, and then largely kept that core group together.
So this change, it feels like a shift away from that consistency.
It does, but the key difference is that this time, it seems like it's being done under, extreme pressure from the logistics.
Okay, let's nail down the context. This team announcement is for the final match against Argentina, but it's being played in London.
Yeah, at the Allianz Stadium in Twickenham. So you've got that huge international travel followed by an incredibly short turnaround time before the game.
Right. And when Erasmus explained his thinking, he was very clear about those logistical problems, wasn't he?
Extremely clear. He basically said the selection wasn't about wanting to rotate or rest guys, ideally. It was dictated by that brutal schedule. Two main things: the travel itself and, crucially, the lack of training time in London.
How much training time did they actually get?
Just 2 days. They landed Monday, team announced Tuesday night. That's almost nothing before a championship decider.
Especially moving across time zones like that. 2 days is incredibly tight.
It really restricts what a coach can do tactically. You can't easily implement major changes or new plays. The sources say Erasmus admitted he was tempted to make alterations, but knew it just wasn't feasible with only 2 sessions.
So, okay, unpack that connection for us. Why does limited training time force you toward consistency, even if you think other players might be individually slightly better?
Because complex moves, new defensive structures, set-piece variations, they all need repetition. You need walkthroughs, you need practice under pressure. You can't just install that in, a couple of hours on the training pitch?
Oh, you need that muscle memory.
Exactly. So if you can't properly drill new tactics, your best bet is to rely on the players who already have that ingrained understanding, that cohesion from playing together recently.
Ah, I see. So consistency becomes the priority over maybe fielding the theoretically strongest individuals on paper. He had to pick the most prepared group given the time available.
That seems to be the logic. It reframes his statement, doesn't it? He's maybe not saying the players are lesser, but that this specific combination isn't the most optimized lineup because the preparation window was just too small for optimization.
That makes a lot more sense. It's classic constraint management, really.
And it explains why the starting 15 is basically unchanged from the previous game in Durban. That unit already has that functional cohesion baked in.
Okay, but he did make 4 changes to the overall match day 23. 1 change in the starting 15. What can we read into those specific moves?
Well, the starting change is pretty straightforward. Oxenak comes back in at loosehead prop.
He missed the last game with a niggle.
Right. Yeah, pulled out late. So he's had a week to recover, gets back into the number 1 jersey. That's just returning to the preferred lineup, restoring that front row consistency.
Makes sense. So the more interesting changes are probably on the bench then.
That's where you see a bit more tactical thinking, yes. Jesse Creel comes onto the bench for Andre Esterhausen.
And the reasoning there.
Erasmus explicitly said it was in respect of the speed that Argentina have. So Creel offers maybe a bit more pace and mobility as cover, specifically to counter Las Pumas' threats later in the game. That's a clear tactical swap.
Okay. What else?
Bongi Matamnambi is back on the bench for Marco van Staden, and Grant Williams is fit again. He had a slight niggle last week, so he takes over the reserve scrum half spot from Moira Vandenberg.
So if you break it down, it looks like one return from a short injury layoff in the starters, and then on the bench, it's mostly about getting guys back who were briefly unavailable, plus that one specific tactical tweak for speed.
Pretty much. And talking about injuries, there was some really good news that actually prevented more disruption.
Oh, yeah. Who is that?
Damien Willems, you remember there was a worry about him. Turns out it was a nerve issue, not a hamstring, and the sources say it's cleared up nicely.
Okay, that's huge.
And Cheslin Colby's shoulder concern also turned out to be fine. Getting those two cleared was massive for maintaining that consistency Erasmus was forced into relying on.
Yeah, especially Colby, given the form he's in. Phew. Okay, if you're finding this level of detail useful and you want it regularly, seriously, just take a second now and subscribe to Rugby Obsession. We promise to keep digging into the why behind the headlines. Right, let's pivot a bit. We've talked about the team, the constraints. What about the venue? Twickenham. It's neutral on paper, but for the Bucks, it's been pretty good recently, hasn't it?
It really has. The Allianz Stadium, as they call it now for these games, has genuinely been a happy hunting ground for South Africa.
What's their record like there lately?
They've won their last 4 games there. And these weren't easy matches. We're talking wins against England, New Zealand, Wales. That creates a real confidence factor.
Walking onto a pitch where you expect to win, especially in a final round decider,
Yeah,
that's got to count for something.
definitely. And we have some insight from Eben Etzebeth on this, too.
Ah, the big lock. What did he say?
He mentioned this will actually be his 12th time playing at Twickenham for the Springboks, so he knows the place inside out.
Wow, 12th time.
Yeah. And he said his best recent memory there was that big win against the All Blacks just before the World Cup last year. But he also made 2 key points about why it's good for them.
Okay.
First, just that it's always a great stadium to play at. But second, and maybe more importantly, the crowd. He highlighted the huge number of South Africans in London. It makes the atmosphere feel much more like a home game for them.
That makes sense. And that ties back into the logistics too, right?
Exactly. Etzebeth pointed out the obvious but crucial fact that playing in London is a much shorter trip than to go to Argentina.
Which, given that tight turnaround we keep talking about, is a massive bonus. Less travel fatigue, more familiarity.
It all helps mitigate that lack of preparation time, doesn't it? The shorter travel, the familiar stadium, the supportive crowd. It creates a counterbalance to the training deficit.
But the biggest factor has to be the championship itself, the stakes.
Absolutely. And crucially, they'll know exactly what's required.
Because the other game finishes first.
That's right. The Wallabies play the All Blacks in Perth before the London game kicks off. So by the time the Bucks run out against Las Pumas, they'll know, is a win enough? Or do they absolutely need the bonus point to lift the trophy?
No ambiguity. Just a clear target for 80 minutes.
Precisely. It eliminates all the what-ifs and just lets them focus on the job at hand.
Okay, so let's try and pull this all together. Rassie Erasmus says very openly, this isn't our strongest team. But digging deeper, that seems less like a criticism of the players and more an acknowledgement of the severe time constraints.
Right. The short turnaround and travel basically forced his hand towards consistency and cohesion, rather than allowing for optimal tactical tweaks.
But they're heading into Twickenham, a place they love playing, where they win often, feeling like a home game.
With key players cleared from injury niggles.
And they'll know the exact points target needed to win the Rugby Championship.
So it looks like a very pragmatic selection. Minimizing risk under maximum pressure, leveraging familiarity and venue advantage to offset the lack of ideal prep time.
Almost like he's traded some potential tactical upside for guaranteed structural stability.
I think that's a good way to put it. Relying on what they know works, what's already bedded in, is probably the smartest play given the situation.
So the big question for you listening is, What do you make of this strategy?
Mhm.
Was prioritizing cohesion and managing the schedule the right call over maybe gambling on a slightly different, theoretically stronger 23? Especially with the title on the line at a favorable ground?
Yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Jump into the comments. Let us know what you think. Is it smart management or an unnecessary risk?
Absolutely. Get involved in the discussion.
And of course, if you enjoyed this deep dive and want more like it, analyzing the tactics and decisions behind the results, make sure you subscribe to Rugby Obsession.
Thank you for listening to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive, and we'll look forward to you listening to our next episode.